No. Okay.
Hi, everybody. Can you hear me? All right. Yeah. Thank you so much for coming. My name is Preethy Padmanabhan. I am an EIR with Emergent Ventures, a seed stage AI fund. And I also run events and co host events. And I'm excited to have this event with Focus on Risk. And we are lucky to have so many amazing investors in our company. And to start with, I'd love to have Michael introduce himself and his fund. Michael? Yeah.
Thanks. I hope you can hear me. I was just comparing socks with Ben, or lack of socks. Yeah, the VC look these days. I left my polar fleece vest at home. I've been a venture investor for over 30 years. I currently lead Momenta Ventures, which is our most recent fund is anchored by Rockwell Automation and Nippon Steel Solutions, which is, you might suspect, the largest systems integrator in Japan. Um, let's see. I've had a career that spanned institutional VC and then a lot of um, corporate VC. And before that, an operating career in software almost entirely. So R&D, sales, marketing, business development, M&A, strategy. I was never in manufacturing, oddly, but that's pretty trivial in software, so it's a little bit different. Our fund is focused on, we call it industrial impact, although I don't mean sustainability. I mean things that move the needle for industrial corporations, those in manufacturing, in energy, in supply chain and logistics, kind of broadly defined. And lately that means the intersection of the physical world and AI and a lot of data, almost always for us.
Yeah.
That's me.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you. Thank you for being here. Would love to hear more about like why did you start this fund? Because you've had an illustrious career being in corporate venture as well as being part of really amazing venture funds. So what is this inception story?
Well, I joined. So this is the Momenta existed before I joined, sometime around 2010, I think. And I met the executive director at that point. But he tried to recruit me, and it just wasn't the right time. Uh, I joined in 2021, and we started the latest fund. Oh, I joined after apparently I retired from General Electric, um, and I got bored. So I noticed that I was recreating the situation that I like best. I was investing in seed stage companies and advising CVCs on how to do things better and advising some institutional funds on the industrial area. And I realized maybe I should just formally go back and do a fund. So I joined my partner Ken, who's in Switzerland, and we're the two formal GPs. We have a small army of venture partners, and I think really what I was trying to do was recreate what I like to do in the domain that I was familiar with. I'm um, increasingly convinced that there's a growing momentum about the uptake and openness of industrial companies to finally embrace AI, things that enterprises have been doing for quite some time, but for good reasons. Manufacturing businesses where safety, or energy businesses where lives are at stake, aren't early adopters of the latest and greatest thing. I love sitting here because you guys are blinded, so you can't really see me.
We- Ah, what?
Okay, watch them carefully, and somebody needs to suit up and throw them a life raft.
Oh wow. Oh
All
wow.
things flow.
Yeah,
They flow pretty
that
well, though.
happens quite often actually, And they have to turn
See,
because these races happen every week. So this boat flipping is quite
they're just
common.
testing the
And
outrigger.
and it's only like it's 4 feet to 6 feet.
Oh, deep. Yeah.
Yeah. Yes, they can stand up. Little bit of entertainment, right? Yeah. It is cold. Yeah. But anyway, while coming back to our conversation, So tell us about like how do you pick the entrepreneurs? Like what are some traits that you look for in the companies you invest in, and like what are some red flags?
Other than the usual things that everybody says about how the people are the most important element, but because we're very early, we do pre-seed, seed, and sometimes A. Um, so it's the person or people, the team, but in this domain in particular, it's domain expertise um, in manufacturing, in energy production or extraction, uh, and so it's a rather unique person who leaves a big organization like one of those and then decides to start a startup. It's a much more common path for people in IT, um, less common for people in OT, as it's called. So we look for people that have the domain expertise. They need to know more about their market than I do. That's not hard, but it's a little scary when I know more about it. And there's this intangible quality, the it factor. They need to, it's some combination of grit, never give up, and the ability to sell a vision to people that they need to recruit that ordinarily wouldn't believe that or shouldn't believe that. But so it's sales, passionate, can sell a vision. One of the challenges that we have, maybe more so than most people, is most of the founders are very, very, very technical because it's often a deep tech thing. And you often get a sole entrepreneur who wants to tell you exactly how things work and doesn't understand that a business is also how you sell it and who cares and how to explain it. So often it's a team of people. Uh, the hacker and the hustler, we call it. Sometimes you find it in one person, and sometimes it takes more than one person.
Hacker and hustler. That's great. I love it. Yeah. I know you invest really early on. Have you found a way on how you can spot the upcoming unicorns? Like, how do you know?
Oh, yeah. And I'm going to reveal that secret tonight to you for a small fee. Yeah. Not really. No. I've all of our decisions come down to some educated guess about the we don't believe their plans to the extent, but we like that they went through the process, and so it has to be plausible. There has to be some. Um, I think we have a unfair advantage, and we understand maybe where customers might be willing to um, receive a product and evaluate it or try it in the next 24 months. Yeah. Maybe more so than the typical institutional VC, but uh, I wished I knew how to avoid mistakes and not get stuck, but that happens most of the time. It really comes down to bet on a person or a team, as I said, and their ability to figure it out before they go broke, because that's what's necessary. I can't remember an example where things went exactly to plan in just the right order, and they broke no glass, and every team member is happy and happy ever after. So that's why it's intangible. So it's very difficult to evaluate somebody and think, how are they going to act when the chips are down, and when they've run out of stamina because they can only stay awake 24 hours a day, so forth. But you could kind of simulate that, particularly some people who have had that experience in the past. So serial entrepreneurs, there aren't many in this space, are at least they have an inspectable track record. But the challenge is that most people, this is their first time.
Yeah. No, I think you have a special advantage because these are really deep tech entrepreneurs who have the skill, they've built it. So you have that, at least you have to have that pedigree in order to even start something. So that's a good advantage for sure. Questions from the audience.
Sorry, I didn't get the red flags, but happy to skip that part. Did they get out of the water yet? Oh, they're left. Okay, good.
6 feet. That's right. Any questions from the audience? We can keep going for.
Yeah, I could probably handle a room without. I'm a little bit more on the finance side, but I was wondering, in the manufacturing and kind of the um, industrial space, I mean, it takes a long time usually to kind of build product, build hardware, and then the scaling part comes pretty late in the process. How you have to be a very patient investor in terms of how long it might take, right?
That's perceptive because virality is, I'm not sure I could say it doesn't exist in our markets, but it's very, very unusual. So the gestation period from founding to success is no shorter than a typical startup and often much longer. So most of our advice, we have patient LPs, and I think my partner is an ex-marathoner, and I'm an cyclist. So I do centuries and long rides where you can't go out too fast or you won't finish. Maybe that reflects our personalities a little bit, but most of our coaching this is a marathon, and I know you think everybody loves you right now and wants to throw money at you, but you may get over your skis and have an unhappy next financing event. So you got to pace yourself, and don't go big early is almost always some form of that is the advice that we're giving people, because the customers are conservative. That's, I think, the big challenge is, like I said, for very good reasons, people in the markets that we sell to are skeptical and are very tough graders. And it takes, who would be the worst industry I could think of? It's a tie between mining and telecom, but they have to be very careful that they don't make things worse accidentally by introducing something via this company that interrupts their operation or slows it down and messes with their margins. So, yes, we have to be very patient.
About the chemicals industry, I found them to be pretty resistant to change in my limited amount of time trying to decide whether to invest in something.
I think they're all resistant to change.
Some have no choice. Like if you think of when 6 years ago, I spent much time in real estate, and the old guys that ran the business had no interest in changing. But everybody that reported to them said, if you keep making me drive back from the job site to change a blueprint, I'm going to quit. So they had no choice but to take on tech. The chemical guys, the old guys, and they do appear to be old guys, don't seem to care. And the only power they give anybody is to make samples. So I'm just wondering if you saw anything different, because it was always troubling to me that I couldn't make that investment because it's such a huge industry.
Yes, I mean, I can't handicap too many industries. They are all slow and conservative. The thing that sped them up that was noticeable to us was COVID. It was nicknamed the Great Acceleration, but while they were hiding from everybody, while they were in their, more or less their offices or their virtual offices, they were available for meetings. And there was such a big supply chain interruption that they were forced to be thoughtful. So then there was this surge of early interest in new technologies that we hadn't. Surge is maybe relative, but relatively speaking, they were much more open to new things than they had been in the past. And that seems to, for the most part, have continued. I'm just happy that it is. So there's that, and I think the tremendous approachability of ChatGPT, that moment in 2000, whenever it was, forced every executive to have to say, yeah, we're doing agents, whatever those are, and then give money to somebody to figure out what that is and go do something. So that's a small crack in the armor, but a lot of people have figured out how to get in and exploit it. So slightly better than it used to be, which is all I need. I'll take that.
Wonderful. Any other questions? Yeah.
So, with your experience, sorry, with the pre-seed and seeding the investor, how often do you invest an investor based on your gut feeling versus the due diligence you do? Like, where does your gut feeling come and say, I think this guy's solid?
Well, it's always both. That's why I was wondering if you're trying to say, I don't care what my logical brain says. I love this person. Let's do it. Never happens. I think it's both. And they're always for us on the fence. Like, oh, I don't. Usually the issue is great idea. When will the dogs want to eat dog food? There's almost, relatively speaking, not very much technical risk in the things that we do, that we invest in. But there's a huge amount of market timing risk. And so it comes down to a gut feel about the person and then an educated guess, which is not far off of a gut feel about market timing. The technical diligence is pretty straightforward, and I don't have any reservations about that. It's pretty black and white, whether things work or they don't. And it's like I said, it's always a question of when will enough people. It's like the who cares answer. Why should somebody care? I think Don Valentine was famous at Sequoia for that. Have to be enough people to care to sustain the company through a couple of phases. Does that answer your question?
Yeah.
It's never purely.
Yeah, I wonder, how do you different, explain the gut versus both come into play? And how do you figure it out?
When we do, I'm not sure this is your question, but I'll answer the one I want to answer. And that's in the space that we found that people who are good leaders who are good storytellers, they have war stories from all the times they've met some customer in some situation and help them. It kind of sounds like I can name that tune. Oh yeah, that your problem reminds me of the problem I had 5 years ago when I was at Microsoft and I helped this guy do that. People who have a wealth of those stories and who they're believable and they're transparent, they can be very compelling. And so, so people with a personality who can communicate, they can flip back and forth between technical. They can go as deep as you want, but they don't go there first. Oddly, I think the big success factor has been the storytelling person that gets trusted faster than their competitors, who have probably an equivalent technology, but the customer just gives the guy they trust a chance. And then the startup that gets in there, it's theirs to lose. So that's why I think this storytelling, domain expertise, relatable person is very, very important.
And the customer validation also adds to your decision process, does it?
Well, they need to get trusted and get into the customer and then earn the right to be trusted. But if they never get in and they're on the bench waiting for some other person to fail, then it takes quite a long time.
Makes sense. I know you didn't get a chance to talk about the red flags. Did you want to cover that?
I think indirectly I did. The usual red flag is all hacker, no hustler, so to speak, or actually that's usually coupled with bad listener. Wants to tell me exactly how things work, and then when I politely say, I don't get it, or I disagree with you, what about this or that? They blow up and they get very defensive. So because it's so important to do customer discovery at an early stage, you really need to know there are no wrong customers, right? There's just you that misunderstand what it is, what the problem really is, and what the product they really want to buy from you is, and the way that they want to buy it. And if you're not a good listener, you won't suddenly realize maybe the wheels should be green because people seem to want green wheels or whatever.
Makes sense. Well, before we conclude, any books or podcasts or anything that come to mind that
You asked me that, and I looked at my Audible feed and my Kindle feed. The last two books I read were The AI Con. Both of them were trying to be realistic about the overhype in AI. So the AI Con was one, and AI Snake Oil was another one, which are kind of salacious titles, but they're pretty sober, going through and peeling back the hype from the reality of what people are saying versus what they're likely to deliver. The other book I enjoyed, I listened to it. It was an Audible book on the way to July 4th in Oregon. Was I can't remember the name now. It's written by it's a kiss and tell book about Facebook. There's a New Zealand woman who joined Facebook as an early employee. She became a close confidant of Sheryl Sandberg's, and she joined as a ingenue. The Facebook's going to change the world, but you need to have policy for governments. And slowly but surely, she started to get face to face with the reality of the company and the executives and what they say versus what actually happens. So any book that starts out in the introduction, the first scene was a 12-year-old girl in New Zealand being attacked by a shark and trying to fight for her life. They sort of grabbed you right there. It's like, okay, I thought this book was about Facebook. So it's a very interesting audiobook if you can get it.
sounds good. Thank you. Let's give a big hand.
Thanks for having me.
That was interesting.